Just waiting for confirmation. Hey, they can hear me. Hello, hello. Sorry for the slight delay. We had some technical difficulties, and welcome to Sticky Notes, where one of us at the user story tells you about something we find interesting once every 2 weeks, Fridays at 12:30. Today, I will talk to you about identifying a challenge. For that, we should probably first gain a common understanding of what a challenge actually is. Because when I asked myself, all I could really come up with is it's something that makes me feel kind of but since that's not very eloquent or descriptive, it's being faced with something that needs great effort to be done successfully, or an invitation to compete, or questioning, testing, refusing something or someone. In German, a challenge is called a Herausforderung, which is one of our infamous compound words, consisting of heraus, out of, and fordern, to demand. So essentially, oh, sorry, I will just mute my notifications here, or get even more. There we go. So yeah, essentially a challenge is something that demands something of us. Right, so on to identifying a challenge. First, I think it would be important to know that there's different types of challenges. They can revolve around things like resources, can be physical resources, say equipment, can be time, like more abstract resources like time or human resources, having enough people or the right people for a job, for example, can be around things like technical feasibility of certain actions you need to take, or they can revolve around leadership and communication, oftentimes around basic fears, because at heart, most of us anyway are quite risk averse, which can lead into problems with things like stakeholder buy-in, convincing others. Oh, sorry, I'm just seeing that somebody has trouble with sound. I'll just continue, see how it goes. Yeah, exactly, stakeholder buy-in. And it can also revolve around things like issues around roles and responsibilities, or rather the lack thereof. Sometimes there's just, okay, it's bad, but like I am audible. Okay, let's see if we can fix this real quick. How's it sound now? Any better? Well, wouldn't be a sticky note without technical difficulties. Right. Roles and responsibilities, or rather the lack thereof, exactly, because sometimes there are just things that are not being picked up because nobody feels responsible, for example, right? And this also ties into communication challenges around sort of mutual understanding and having the same objectives, essentially, pulling on the same boat in the same direction. They also come in all different kinds of sizes and shapes, with some being very well documented. Example of that would be running a marathon, for example, very clearly documented and clear challenge. You see it coming from, well, 42 kilometers away. And others are more deceptively mundane, like, say, keeping a tidy environment, which is something we at least try to do every day, but that can absolutely sometimes just not quite work out and affect our work and personal environments. For example, tidying up tasks on task management system or tidying up, socks in your drawer to actually find matching ones. Some people care about that, I hear. And they can also be hidden. So we might just not be aware of them. And that's a huge problem, right? Because if the challenge comes your way and it affects you, your work, your personal life, and you're just not aware of it, that makes for very unpleasant surprises. But luckily, there's something we can do about that. And some of the ways we try to mitigate the unawareness at the user story is our weekly check-ins. It's our weekly one-to-ones where we try to reflect on how the past week has gone, how we're doing at the moment, what the current situation is, and also try to project into the future, sort of see what our plans are, what might affect us in those plans. And another technique you can use for that is a pre-mortem. What's a pre-mortem? It's essentially a workshop where you think about all of the possible ways that your endeavor, whichever that might be, could fail, and then work backwards to try and figure out how it got to that scenario, to try and figure out what leads to essentially what you're trying to do failing in the long run, and you being able to sort of avoid and navigate those challenges along the way. Which brings us into addressing a challenge. Because just, knowing that it's there doesn't really do much apart from, inducing existential dread if you don't know what to do about it. So essentially what you want to do is first you want to understand your challenge. The pre-mortem is one way of doing that. Another way of doing that I like to employ is to try and start at the source of the challenge and employ the 5 whys. So essentially what it is you try to formulate your problem or your challenge, and you ask yourself why. Why am I facing this? Why is this a problem? And when you found the answer to that, or one of the multiple answers, you ask why again, and you repeat that 5 times, and you should be somewhere very close to or at the root of the problem. And every single one of those stages also opens up further branches along the way. For example, a feature you're designing is high effort and low value. Why is that? Why are you designing this in the first place? Well, users asked for it, right? So why did users ask for it? Users think this is what they need to reach a goal. And so each step along those lines, you can also find different answers, as I said, but this is kind of how you sort of step back, get closer to the root of the problem, and then at this point, you could already, after 2 or 3 whys, say, okay, well, if they have this goal, let's see if there's any other ways we could reach that goal, right? And this is just one of the ways to try and understand what a problem really is, like what the root of the problem is. And sometimes overcoming a challenge can also be difficult because it seems very big and unwieldy. So this is where the 5 whys can help as well. Generally, to tackle all of the different parts of the challenge, to define your starting position, to define the desired outcomes, and to discover all of the different variables that affect the outcomes. And to the keen-minded among you, that might sound familiar because it is objectives and key results, which we at the user story use to help our clients tackle their individual challenges along their journey to becoming a more successful business. And that is my sweet and short talk about challenges, identifying them, overcoming them. Thank you very much. We have these talks every 2 weeks, 12:30, all of our channels. So if you want to see more, you can also head to our YouTube where you can find recordings of all the streams before. And now I'm happy to answer any questions there might be, at least if Restream allows them to come through into the chat collection, which is sometimes a bit iffy. So far, I can't see anything.
Something about his challenge.
Hello. I think we just wanted to say good work. It was a really good sticky note. We've actually, like you say, just done
thank you all for watching.
Company pre-mortem.
See you around sometime soon.
So yeah, it was really interesting to kind of go into the future